I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Dave versus the MSM. I'd like to thank you for joining me today and thank you for networking this information to those you know and love. The issues we discuss, those you know and love, your friends, your families, your neighbors, your coworkers, they unfortunately are completely oblivious to the information we provide. It's not because they're bad people or they're mentally deficient. It's just they're hung up watching the boob tube, the propaganda arms of the globalist cult. And their goal is to keep them financially, economically ignorant. You see, when historians look back at 2024, they're going to look back at 2024 and some years before that as the big financial collapse worldwide. It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It's not from incompetence. It's the way the criminal banking syndicate, the globalist cult, has pre-rigged the buildings to come down. You see, the way they can get not just millions of people or hundreds of millions of people or a billion or so people compromised, victims of their heinous actions, but the way they can get every person on the planet almost targeted and taken down is by bringing down the financial system of the world. But you're going to say, well, what about them? Well, they've pre-positioned themselves. They not only pre-positioned the ordinance to bring the financial buildings down, but they've pre-positioned themselves by protecting themselves. Why do you think all these central bankers and sovereign countries have been accumulating what's been found for thousands of years to be the financial life preserver, the best financial insurance policy on the planet in times of trouble? Why have they been accumulating huge quantities for the past several years of physical gold and physical silver? It's not a coincidence you're seeing the price of physical gold and physical silver going up. Meanwhile, they're telling you it's a barbarous relic. You want paper assets that are like vapor, but you want paper. They're pre-positioning you in those buildings where they've already put the ordinance. And the governments of the world that are puppets of the banking syndicate and the banking families have placed weapons of mass financial destruction. What are they? Let's dissect them out. Government puppets, and they're puppets of the banking syndicate, are in place. These government puppets, just look at the United States, have created, through their fiscal policies, $35 trillion in debt, to the point where we're increasing our debt load by $1 trillion every 3 months. It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. And it's not incompetence. It's willful. Debt, D-E-B-T, is what brings buildings down. Government puppets are integral as weapons of mass financial destruction. So are the banksters and their puppets in the banking community, such as the head of the Fed, Powell, and all of the Fed. Remember, the Federal Reserve, what branch of government are they from? For those of you, this is I know, redundant, but talk to 99% of the people you know and ask them this question. What branch of the government is the Federal Reserve in? Most will, those that know the three branches, and you'll be surprised how many of the friends and families you know don't know that there are three branches of the United States government. Those that do know will say, well, they're part of the executive branch now. Well, they're not part of the judicial branch. No. They're not part of the legislative branch. No. Well, they must be part of the executive branch because federal's in their name. Federal Express, the delivery company, are they part of the federal government? No. Great marketing, though. Federal Express. Same thing with the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve was created out of thin air in 1913 by globalist cult scum Woodrow Wilson and a scum globalist Congress that around Christmas Eve passed it through and took the money printing capabilities away from the United States Treasury and put it in the hands of a group of independent bankers who are only looking out for the interests of the bankers. And it was called the Federal Reserve and still is. And since they took control of printing the money supply, the purchasing power of the dollar that they took over has depreciated by over 99%. Accident? Nope. Coincidence? Nope. Incompetence? Nope. Willful. Government puppets. Part of the destruction crew. Bankster puppets, those on Wall Street, money laundering activities, the creation of false data by governments and banks. Remember Ronald Reagan? I was a consultant brought into the Reagan administration to work on healthcare policy in the spring of 1988, toward the end of his administration. But on August 12th, 1986, he said, quote, "The 9 most terrifying words in the English language are, quote, I'm from the government and I'm here to help," end quote. He's right. The government isn't helping. They've created this mess, along with their bankster buddies. And the government produces data. Right? They're telling you the employment picture's fine. Are you aware that the Philadelphia Fed, no less, they will fess up at times and say, we're about to flush the toilet. Get out of the shower, for those of you that are articulate enough to and smart enough to figure out what we're telling you. That's you. Philadelphia Fed admits U.S. payrolls, those great employment numbers, have been overstated by at least 800,000. Last year, they came out and they said, the employment numbers are overstated by 1.1 million. And while they're telling you the job situation's great, we've lost 1.8 million full-time jobs in just the past 4 months. Guess it's not so great, is it? No, it's not. False data and debt, D-E-B-T. If you look at the expenditures of the United States federal government in years gone by, first was Social Security, Medicare, then defense spending, and then interest on the debt. Well, it's been creeping up to the point where in early 2024, interest on the debt jumped over defense spending for the first time in our country's history. And now this, from Hartnett, U.S. interest to hit $1.6 trillion by the end of 2024, making it the largest U.S. government outlay. Debt. D-E-B-T. Congressional Budget Office Director. They're again telling you something bad's coming. Warns of debt market meltdown with U.S. debt, which is on an unprecedented trajectory. And the banking system is wobbling. Now, the banking families, they're quite protected. But when it wobbles, what happens? Just look at Cyprus. When it wobbles and banks fail, what do? They come in and they go, well, to all those people that had $1,000 in their, let's say, $1,000 in their savings and checking accounts, well, we're going to do something called a bail-in. And well, you don't really have $1,000 anymore because we're going to take 900 of it to pay of your money to pay for our economic malfeasance and financial malfeasance, to pay off what we owe people because of our bad debt. And well, you now have $100 in your account. You can't do that. Oh yeah, it's in the fine print. And what they're doing is they're trying to get rid of as many small banks and medium-sized banks as possible. Almost 10,000 U.S. banks have disappeared since 1985, leaving 4 mega banks. And these 4 mega banks are loaded to the gills with derivatives or financial weapons of mass destruction. The 5 banks have combined $500 billion in commercial real estate, just commercial real estate loans, and we know the commercial real estate market is tanking. In addition, these 5 banks, JP Morgan Chase, Citigroup, Goldman, Bank of America, and Morgan Stanley, hold 223 trillion with a T, $223 trillion worth of derivatives that are not investments, are bets. Review. Financial weapons of mass destruction. Government puppets, bankster puppets, false data, debt, DEBT, derivatives, manipulated markets to get everybody into the vapor paper game. And then you add to it some countries saying something's wrong. Something's really wrong. These buildings are coming down, and we're getting out of the buildings so that we're not taken down in the process. Who are those countries? Those would be the BRICS, BRICS countries. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and the S is now also for Saudi Arabia, who recently joined, along with several other countries. And there are 41 other countries lined up to say, we want in. And they're developing their own payment system. They're developing their own trading currency based on what? To back it up? Hard assets, gold, silver, oil, natural gas. But the United States has that. No, they don't. No, they don't. Nixon took us off the gold standard in 71. Do you know that supposedly we have over 8,000 tons of gold in the possession of the United States? When do you think the last time it was audited? Last week? Last month? Last year? 1956. Really? Yeah. Do you really think? Do you think that there's a possibility that we don't have 8,000 tons? The Federal Reserve was recently served with a directive by a member of Congress. His last name Mooney from West Virginia, who said, a lot of countries are supposedly storing their gold here in the United States. And the question is that gold? Are we saying it's our gold, but it's really somebody else's gold? And how many countries have taken their gold out and the Fed refuses to deliver an answer on that? So a Freedom of Information Act was filed by somebody else, and they refused to respond. What does that tell you? That a significant number of foreign countries have pulled their gold or are in the process of trying to pull their gold. And then the question is, were you counting that 8,000 tons and saying it was yours when in fact it was another country's, and now that they're removing it? Right. The ultimate weapon of mass destruction is a removal of the United States dollar as a reserve currency of the world, and that's what we're experiencing. If you watch recently, Bitcoin, gold, silver, copper have all been appreciating significantly. Why? It's because countries around the world are saying, no, we don't trust the United States dollar. And for thousands of years, what's been found to be the means of financial security in times of trouble have been physical commodities. in particular gold and silver, the best insurance policy around. A house of cards supported and backed by blind faith, from Claudio Grass. People invest in gold for many different reasons. Many do so out of a concern for economic, monetary, or political uncertainty. Others seek a hedge against inflation, a way to protect and preserve the real purchasing powers of their savings. There are also those who simply seek some peace of mind and dependable insurance so that no matter what the future holds and no matter how bad the worst case scenario turns out to be, they would have a fairly solid plan B. All these are valid, sound, and sensible reasons to invest in gold and silver and precious metals, at least for long-term investors, for those who truly understand the true value and core purpose of physical precious metals. Yet ultimately, all these concerns share a common denominator. They all emanate from the same very well-founded and clearly troubling realization that our entire socio-political, economic, and monetary system is merely a mirage, a house of cards, supported and backed by nothing but blind faith. It's also designed to favor and reward reckless opportunism, improvidence, and sheer greed, and to punish and penalize prudence, restraint, patience, and personal responsibility. This entire system, as complex and intricate as it might seem, is actually built on a very simple premise. It all relies upon the individual's willingness to trade a promise of compliance, obedience, and submission to a higher authority in exchange for security, order, protection, and stability. And that mirage, that house of cards, those financial buildings are coming down. Government puppets, bankster puppets, false data, debt creation, derivatives, manipulated markets, and the loss of the reserve currency of the dollar. That's what's happening. We have had a number of guests come on this platform. I've had a number of guests on my radio show over the past 13 and a half years telling you what was coming. We've had Adriana Reed from the Camino Company, that we've done a number of, I think, excellent videos telling you what was coming and how to protect yourself. If you haven't looked into the financial insurance policy of physical gold and physical silver, you need to. There's a lot of great information on our site, davejanda.com, and also Camino Company's site, caminocompany.com. They're the people I deal with and have for years, many years, as members of my family. Because it was just a matter of time when all this would come crashing down. And it's crashing down. You need to protect yourself. I hope you'll join us at davejanda.com. Extra shows, content, guests, analysis, archives to all of our shows. We have the premium service, content, and email service, $9 a month. A pizza now costs $20. Inflation. Again, weapon of mass destruction. Yeah. $20. For less than half of a pizza, we give you priceless content to put you months and years ahead of the curve. You cannot afford not to have that service. It's the biggest bang for the buck you'll ever have. Fact. davejanda.com. Become a subscriber. You will be very, very happy you did. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.